Hey, and welcome to another episode of Unbottleneck, the marketing podcast that helps unbottleneck tough marketing challenges. Today with us is Al Sefati. Al is a digital marketing expert with more than a decade of experience helping startups and established brands. He's the president of Sefati & Co., a boutique hybrid digital marketing agency in Irvine, California. Welcome, Al. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hey, Steve. Thank you for having me. My journey to SEO and digital marketing started way back in during the .com era. I first started as a developer, and after a few years, I had some web properties that I needed to build traffic to. So I learned SEO and SEM on my own, and that's pretty much like around early 2000s. That's where I started diving into the world of SEO and SEM. And after the 2008 crash, I started working professionally as an SEO, SEM expert for many companies. All the way till recently, I was holding full-time jobs and I was doing consulting on the side. And the last couple of years, I decided to go on my own full-time, and it's been a life-changing experience.
That's amazing. Yeah, we actually go back quite a bit too. I think we started working together right around 2013, 2014. We had this big automotive franchise that we were supporting through an agency that both of us were working with. And
Yeah,
um, I remember when we started collaborating, I was like, oh, and here's somebody who can take some of these calls so that I can geek out
yeah,
and get more into search. And that was so cool working with you. And then just randomly, we kept running into each other at conferences
yeah.
and um, I won't lie. I think the conferences we ended up meeting at were more we went because of the ambiance and where we were, less than about the type of conference it was, like
Sure.
sunny beaches and
Yeah,
and crazy Vegas conferences and stuff. So
yeah. It's
kind
good
of
to
neat
get out
that
of the office.
we share that.
It's definitely good to get out of the office, right, and see the your mentors and friends and I definitely do look at you as a mentor. You really helped me a lot in the
I
transition.
always say the same thing about you. How funny.
Yeah, I know that in that when the project we worked together on over that agency, it was a big project. So I was very fortunate to have you on our team.
Yeah,
Uh,
between the two of us, we were the ones that helped that brand win the Not Low Top 30 that year, first
that's
in local marketing because of all the cool stuff we did at the local level for all those different services. So that was exciting. It was fun. If I recall, the biggest challenge in that experience was the user experience folks. Would argue over the SEO benefits of some of the different pages on the website that we wanted to optimize. So
great.
I say we probably lost about 20% more of what we could have gotten from an SEO standpoint,
Yeah,
had we not been just sort of the passive guys that we are and let UX have its way.
yeah.
But even then, at the product or service level and at the local level, I think we crushed it. I mean, it was a pretty fun, amazing, and rewarding experience, I think, for both of us.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that battle SEO between UX has been ongoing, right? So it's just meeting them halfway. Sometimes even that
Give
takes
and take,
some up.
right? You build a business case, and then you come back and like, hey, here's more opportunity if you keep on to
Yeah,
expand your SEO.
for sure.
So today we're talking about the topic of e-commerce and SEO and PPC, and one of the questions that came up was, in your opinion, what's a basic definition of e-commerce SEO, and why is SEO even important for e-commerce?
Yeah, that's really good question. SEO is SEO. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're e-commerce or not, but e-commerce SEO tends to have a slightly different approach. So obviously, SEO is for search engine optimization, and the process of e-commerce SEO is to focusing on having your store and or your products found online on Google and other search engines. It's a series of things that you do to your website, to its content, on page and off page to help you become more prominent in the search results,
Mhm.
and and obviously make sales. I started on my journey into the world of marketing when I started selling stuff online. So that's where I learned SEO. That's where I learned marketing, and for many years, that's all I knew before I started becoming a professional marketer, and I was able to experiment other type of businesses like the one we work together with.
Yeah.
So e-commerce is for me, it's I have a little passion for it because because you can see the work you do almost immediately translate into
In dollars, yeah.
dollars. Like as opposed to lead gen is sometimes it might take a little bit, and there's a lot of things outside your control.
Yeah,
But
well, that lead didn't turn into a client, so that one didn't matter, right? Whereas e-com, you're like, the dollar's right there.
yeah, it's right there. You did this. It give you this much lift in traffic and this much lift in sales, and that's why I really enjoy it. And and e-commerce is changing. COVID has changed e-commerce even more. People are shopping more online.
Right.
So it's very important for you to optimize your website for search engines. Not everybody jumps to Amazon. Although Amazon is the prime e-commerce shop on the internet right now, people are still going to Google and searching for things, and it's not only just to buy online but also curbside pickup. So you have to be able to optimize for all those type of searches.
Yeah,
um,
when I think about e-commerce, I tend to gravitate toward the category, subcategory, and product detail pages, knowing that the category pages address some of those broader searches that users are making that I want to use to build brand awareness, to to show searchers that we're an option if they're looking for a product category in a certain category or subcategory, and the product detail pages, if done correctly with user generated content and everything, are what will appear when somebody does more of a specific search, with some of the latest Google updates like BERT, and
yeah,
you're hearing all these rumors about what they're going to be doing here in the next couple of months. It seems like these product detail pages are going to appear more often because now Google is really measuring the parts of a page separately than the page itself. So I think those are the two areas when I think of e-commerce SEO: is how do I get my categories to rank for as many broad categorical search terms to introduce my brand and maybe get some conversions, and how do I optimize my product detail pages so that I can appear for all the millions of ways and modified search queries that users are making to land on those product pages. And I use that as a differentiator from what we did with the auto repair franchise, where the focus was around getting people to the city page for some of those broader search terms like car repair near me, to the specific service that they're looking for, like oil change near me and muffler repair near me. So it's very similar, I think, in a lot of ways, except for, like you said, e-com, you can actually track real ROI, whereas in the other side of local search and lead gen, it's really more difficult to do that.
sure, yeah, definitely. And I do, and you brought up a really good point. When I start doing SEO audit on e-commerce, I usually start from product up. I look at the product pages and I go to the subcategory and then the category, and that's how I audit. I don't. I obviously I care about the homepage, I care about the blogs, but it's the products that you're trying to optimize for, because that's what your
That's what converts.
that's
Yeah.
what converts. That's what keeps your job. So
Mhm.
like I usually some of them some of the clients that we've been able to help with is that they want to stay cute, and they have these cute product pages that has no content. And I'm like, well, this is, you got to think about your consumer journey. To find you through search, in order to find you through search, you need to have content.
Right.
So you got to forget about just every, a lot of consumers. One of the mistakes that I see that a lot of e-commerce managers make is that they start optimizing from the homepage. It should be
Mm.
the other way around. You got to be started
Right.
optimizing for your product and product category pages, like you mentioned.
I always remember telling clients that the homepage serves the keyword that's your brand name or your company name,
Right.
and that if your homepage is appearing for the non-branded search term that you're going after, that means your sub pages aren't doing their job, because the sub pages should be what appear for non-branded queries. Well, on that note, as we're talking about optimization and your experience, um, how do you do SEO for an e-commerce website?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I started with an audit. I the auditing, doing a technical audit. A lot of technical uh, part of SEO gets neglected a lot in the world of e-commerce,
Mhm.
unfortunately, because of some of the legacy platforms that are out there. So things like page speed and some of the really bad taxonomies and URL structures that you'd be surprised that are still exist these days, from back in the days. So that's where I start making sure that the website has the right taxonomy, and follows the logical order from homepage, product, sub product to product. And then focus on the performance issues, page speed is becoming more and more important every year.
Yeah, there's a big uptake coming up
And
here in May, right?
yeah, I mean, it's in the chatter. It's already being rolled out. So I noticed a lift in not only SEO boost but also conversion, and when we improve the page speed. So and
Right.
for most of the e-commerce, especially B2C e-commerce, majority of traffic comes from your mobile. So you want to make sure your website is mobile friendly, mobile responsive, and of course loads fast. So all
Right.
those things are, I take all those things into consideration when I do an audit. And after we're done with the technical audit, then we do a content audit on, what type of keywords we are trying to rank for, what type of content we have. Obviously, we want to have transactional content, but we also have to think about some of the informational content. A good example is Amazon A plus pages. They have the transactional content above the fold, and then
Right.
they have more of the informational content below the fold. So something along that line where, and I know it's not easy to do a lot of, especially in the
It's a
fashion,
lot of work.
it's a lot of work, and in the fashion industry or some of these other industries where they want to be cool, and they don't want a lot of content. So I find that a constant battle, like with me and their user with
I
it.
wanna rank for these keywords, but I don't wanna use those keywords.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
practically impossible for both SEO and SEM, because for PPC you need to have those keywords to get a good quality score as well. So
Mhm.
the keywords are very important, and just like some of the things you mentioned earlier today, like user generated content, those reviews and ratings, and so that's really our focus. We don't we ha- I haven't put a lot of focus on backlinks and link building outside doing an audit and make sure that they don't have any um, spammy links coming to the website.
Right.
Our link building services limits to, like, unlinked mentions and some of the really basic stuff. We really believe in earning links.
Mhm.
If you asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have given a different answer. But nowadays, um,
Oh, we've looked at plenty of those spreadsheets back in the day, remember?
exactly,
I
exactly.
don't think this is really gonna help us. Well, it shouldn't hurt us, and now we look back and we're like, "What were we doing?"
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So it's really it's a combination of helping the website, have a technical, from both
Mhm.
technical and content perspective, to being sound. So that's what we look for. Obviously, we do market research, competitive research to see how some of the leaders are doing it, and so we can be more competitive.
I know when we're talking about user experience, one of the platforms that I've oddly found myself promoting more than I usually do is Shopify.
Yeah,
I wasn't happy with how Shopify limited certain SEO capabilities. I didn't like having, the word, I don't know if it was a category or catalog or something in the URL, and it was driving me nuts. And you couldn't remove it because their platform is just built the way it's built, and you just have to deal with it. Um, and But when I find myself using Instagram and a lot of these social networks, and I find myself making a $25 purchase, um, I would say Shopify is the only platform I've been able to use where I've successfully made it through a transaction with just my thumb. What's great about the platform is because they've already got the integration with their shop platform. I can literally, click, 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 purchase, and then feel guilty afterwards because I made an impulse click, impulse purchase.
right,
Where sometimes I'll bail out halfway through the process if I have to fill out a lot of forms and stuff. I'm like, it's not really worth it. Why am I buying this anyway? 90% of the time, if it's Shopify, and I always know it is because it has a shop, purchase with shop.
right,
It's perfect. And I think that's really phase one when we think about mobile experience right now
sure,
is getting the user to be able to click through with just their thumb. But eventually, it's really going to start to transcend to untethering ourselves completely and using just voice, to navigate through a shopping experience. When we see something we like, at some point, we're going to be able to use the voice services and say purchase, and it's going to say, just to confirm, you want to purchase this for X dollars, correct? And you're going to say yes, and it's going to be like you're on the phone or customer service, but with an actual with, I believe, with some of the coding that goes onto the page to allow you to do a voice enabled purchase. I think it's going to get really interesting. But you're right. I think mobile is the first way to do that is to get a tap 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 purchase experience, right?
right. 100%. Mobile experience, and the code that you mentioned. I'm assuming that you were referring to schema codes and things like that. And I can only imagine, like, if you don't have that, you're definitely something you should be.
There is an action schema, I believe, but I don't think it's being used actively, and I don't think it's living up to its potential yet. I think there's a lot more effort that's going to happen in years to come as people become more comfortable with, the Internet of Things. Watching my cousin in Florida order products from his refrigerator on a
Wow,
tap screen
that must
is
be
is
exciting.
pretty. It's a pretty good sign. Watching computer screens show up on washing machines now, and the Internet of Things as they call it. So
Yeah,
it's gonna be a slow move. I think a lot of people still have to get comfortable with the idea of letting go of the concern of not having the control over keyboards and stuff and just using their voice and feeling like, okay, I don't want to accidentally order something or have my 5-year-old order $600 worth of products or something, right?
sure.
So it'll be a slow transition, but interesting nonetheless. The good news is when I survey my students at some of the schools I speak at, not a single one of them are making purchases with voice yet. So it's still untapped territory. It's still everyone's trying to figure it out and feel comfortable with it. But it's going to happen eventually. I mean, we know, and we've all kind of been futurists and look in the future and look back and laugh at us looking down at phones 10 years ago, right? So we'll see where it goes. That the next section we were talking about this a little bit. It was the product detail page and the category pages. From your experience, what are some best practices with optimizing those pages?
Uh, First of all, the SEO basics, just the getting those, the title tags, meta descriptions, H1, H2s, programmers,
Headings and subheadings,
heading,
right?
yeah, exactly, subheadings, and like I just find this headings kind of frustrating sometimes because developers tend to neglect that, and you and I know that
Or
that's
they wrap your logo in an H1 tag. I think they do that just to mess with us, Al. Honestly, at this point, 20 years later, they're still doing that.
they're still
I
doing
think
that
they know.
since, yeah, it's been a, you would think that, after all these tickets that we create for them, so you're right, maybe they have a sense of humor, but
Mm,
some of those basic things, getting your title tags in place, meta descriptions for the search, for better click-throughs in a search result, but then having the content that, like I mentioned, have your transactional content, very similar to what Amazon has on its product pages, like an overview of your products, the keywords in your content.
yeah.
You have to have your keyword research done, and you also have to understand the intent of your keywords. And I know when it comes to intent, no one can preach it better than you, right? So the keyword intent is really important, so you want to make sure your products do rank for the keywords that are more transactional.
Yep.
But at the same time, you want to have some of those longer tail informational stuff on there, preferably below the fold, is because that helps with the decision making. If you're not sure, you read more, and then
Oh yeah. Well, what you're saying, the conversion rate on Rolex watches versus Rolex watches for sale. I mean, massively different. Obviously, there's more search volume for Rolex watch, but some people are searching because they want to know what it is, what it looks like. They're not even in a shopping phase. They could be, somebody who just doesn't have the money for a Rolex and they dream about them, right?
right.
Whereas for sale says, I'm looking to buy.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
exactly. The intent is really important. So you want to make sure you optimize for those, and the technical part of SEO, as we mentioned, the page speed, the schema markups.
hmm,
You want to make sure maximize all that. The consumer reviews and ratings and user generated content is priceless if you can manage to get it in under, uh, because that gives more credibility to your products, and just and having a lot of, and something that is really important. We humans are very visual. One of the
hmm,
reasons is probably the voice. I use voice search to find stuff near me, but I don't use it often to buy things, and part of that is because I'm very visual. I like to see the product, and when you have an e-commerce page, you want to have at least a few images of the product, from different angles, and preferably a video of the product if you can, because all that stuff helps with SEO, for sure, but also helps with users making a purchase. Um,
right.
and as you add more images and videos, you have to make sure you optimize. And, one common thing that I see in all e-commerce, those image namings really frustrates me. It's like 1234.jpg, one two.
What does that even mean, right? Like, the search engine sees that and they're like, okay, this doesn't translate into any sort of English, so I'm not going to apply this image toward any sort of keyword relevancy. And you just missed out on a really huge opportunity. In fact, remember, it was another account we worked on together years ago that that had a similar issue where we did change the image names and we saw a difference.
Yeah, just changing image names and adding alt tags is huge. And all it takes is that from the time you take the photography gives you the images, because they give you the default whatever they have.
Right.
Someone in the marketing team should go back in there and just rename them, and then upload them to your e-commerce platform,
Hmm.
and then that
There's so
that
much metadata and things that you can do with images.
exactly, and then add your alt tags and everything, because it's a lot harder to change images after you upload them to your system. It's very difficult. You gotta it's a manual work. So some of this basic stuff that the CMS managers tend to overlook,
Sure.
make a big difference when it comes to e-commerce SEO.
I've seen I've seen a common mistake when we're thinking about how we optimize pages where a business will copy content from the manufacturer,
Oh, that's
or they'll decide to use stock imagery. And I know both of those things have already been found and indexed and cataloged in Google and Bing's databases. So by putting those on your page, you're basically just saying, here, give a vote to the pages that have this content instead of vote for my page. So it's interesting to see how, I don't want to call it lazy, but how they'll take the shortcuts and just copying content, whether it's an image or text, and they say, how come my page doesn't rank? And instead of just taking the time or creating a schedule, heck, the schedule could take 5 years. That's fine. At least you're working toward it. You'll blink your eyes and it'll already been 2 or 3 years, and you could have written a ton of content for those individual pages and created your own images. I know one of our ecom clients down in Newport Beach converted one of his offices into a photo studio where all they do is just take pictures of products. And it's worked for them. They appear in Google Images. They're getting picked up in Pinterest and Imager and all these different photo sites because their images are so high quality and so unique
right.
that they get referenced all the time.
You're 100% correct, and I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a common problem with a lot of e-commerce shops, is that because of lack of resources or laziness or whatever that may be, is they just grab this manufactured content and slap it on their website, knowing that they're just having a huge missed SEO opportunity there.
Right.
Whereas if they were to take the time and write unique content for each product, and like you said, take their own images,
Mhm.
pictures of the image, it will be more authentic, and also users will notice that too, because users will see the same image everywhere. You're less credible to their eyes as opposed to having
Sure.
something really unique. When I had my soccer store, back in the days, I learned that instead of you can go on Nike.com and get the picture from Nike's website, but then what we did is we got one of those headless mannequins, and then we would just put the jersey on and take a picture.
Nice.
And we didn't have we were a small company, so we didn't have all the equipment that we should. But even that was really, a lot of consumers really liked it, because it's also harder to copy from you. So if you produce your own images, it would be more authentic. So you're 100% correct, and that's definitely it's a bigger undertaking.
Sure.
It takes a lot of training with the CMS managers and just the marketing staff of the clients, but it's a common problem, that an opportunity for optimization.
Yep. We did figure out a content hack once for being able to scale on e-commerce sites for product details and for categories. Is we use Amazon Mechanical Turk.
Yeah.
They have a group of users that are called masters, and for a couple dollars, you provide a template and you say, look at this page, describe the picture, describe the benefits of the picture, describe the type of person that this product would be good for. And we have all these different little criteria that we come up with where they answer the questions in a survey, and then you just you use a spreadsheet, you load it up in Mechanical Turk, and within a day or two you could get 1,000 people to give you product information that you can then give to somebody on the team to port over into the actual landing pages. So you definitely want that level of moderation, but now you don't have to write it. All the writing's been done. Now you just have to borrow from the content that you ordered from people who answered questions about the product page. So it's still a lot of effort, but at least you don't have to manually write one page at a time. You can do 1,000 pages in a day. You just can't load them up as quickly as that. But that was a neat little way to to get content quickly by simply sending out a survey with specific types of questions that play into creating unique content. It's called Amazon Mechanical Turk, and
Sure.
I think we've used it before and done
Yeah.
some fun creative things with it in the past, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's Amazon Mechanical Turk, or you can get an intern in house and just
Hmm.
a couple of interns is like, you just write this product description with this template.
Right.
Like you mentioned, there's a lot of good solutions out there. And there's also automated solutions out there that I'm not a big fan of, but some use it. It's getting better with, but uh, whatever you can do is try to work really hard to have those unique, your product content as unique as possibly can. And I mean, if you don't do it, Google is not going to penalize you, but you're missing a big opportunity on ranking, because between you and the manufacturer, who's going to rank first? The manufacturer, because you're copying their content. So
Yep. Yeah, your page can even get omitted from the search results. I
exactly.
gotta ask though, what we talked about Shopify a bit. What are your favorite e-commerce platforms?
I like Shopify with some restrict and limitations you mentioned is definitely the catalog or whatever they call the product that
Yeah.
uh, I Magento is what one of our client uses. The 2.0 is actually quite an improvement. It's an expensive version. It's more expensive.
Not the community, but the professional version.
Professional version, yes,
Okay.
and it's very pricey.
Yeah, it's 20 or 30 grand a year or
Yeah,
something, isn't
so
it?
about 30 grand a year, but if you
Oh my
have
god.
high volume, it may be worth it. Uh, WooCommerce is another one. Those are the recent ones that we've been working with,
Mhm.
and again, there's a lot of them out there. It's just that I look for some of the basic things like, no, am I able to modify the SEO easily, the title tag, meta
Yeah.
description, can I, and the page speed is
Social tags, Open Graph, Twitter card,
all that
right?
stuff, exactly.
Yeah.
And the page speed is, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is. Like, I mean, 3 years ago when people were saying page speed, page speed, page speed, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know, whatever. But now I can actually see the impact it has on your rankings and of course your conversion.
We helped an attorney relaunch his website in the past week, and his page speed is a fraction of what it was previously, and his overall rankings are up across the board.
Yeah,
So yeah, page speed can make an immediate impact to rankings, which is weird. Normally, when we used to make a change, it was a few weeks to a few months before we noticed anything.
yeah,
In this case, because it's faster, those users who do see it on the few impressions that he's getting in the search results are staying on his page. So we're getting more impressions
sure.
because Google's saying, "Oh wow, something's changed, something's better." People are responding differently, and respectively, his rankings keep going up. Whether it's going to sustain or not, I don't know. But it's pretty exciting to watch, the impact of page speed be so immediate like that,
Yeah, we
and
noticed.
conversion rates are impacted too.
Yeah, we noticed the same thing too. Like when we improved the page speed of one of our clients, working with developers, like just the overall organic traffic jumped by like 4 or 5%, which is quite,
Right.
which is amazing.
Well, let's talk really quickly about, since we're talking about organic a bit, let's shift over to the paid search side of things. And I know in organic we mentioned category and product detail pages. What is PPC in terms of doing an e-commerce search strategy, and how would you address it?
Yeah, that's a good one. As SEO takes a little bit. There's a lot of competition. So and your clients or your boss sometimes they want to see sales coming in sooner so you can fund your marketing operation. So that's where you want to turn some PPC ads on. My experience has been with e-commerce is that some of the reasons that I explained earlier is that the reason you want to make sure you get your user experience right is because it's hard for e-commerce that, let's say, has 50,000 products to create different landing pages that are for PPC for each one of those products. So a lot of PPC tactics is just to send traffic to those product pages or category pages, or you can create the landing page just for your PPC by selecting certain products you're trying to promote.
Hmm.
Um, what we usually recommend is that PPC can go wild. You can spend a lot of money promoting stuff on and it can get really expensive. So you got to do a little bit of math. First of all, you have to understand your KPIs. You have to understand is that what is your average order cost, what is your average order sell, like what is going to be your ROI, and really focus on a really lower funnel type of sales. If you don't do PPC for branding, you do it to make sales, you use SEO to kind of grow your digital footprint. So our recommendations to most of our clients is that let's identify the products that have the biggest margin or biggest ROI for you, and 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 then we try to optimize. We try to bid for this product either through the Google Shopping and or through the Google search campaigns. And
Right.
that's has been our strategy, and it's worked really well. Our goal constantly, is not just to improve. We want to make sure that they have good ROI justifying the PPC spend, and then from the month, and as long as they have a positive ROI, we continue focusing. The primary channel right now for search is Google, but we've been tapping a lot into Amazon. A lot of our e-commerce also have Amazon stores, and they sell on Amazon, and Amazon does support PPC services. A
Right.
little bit of Bing as well, and some Facebook and Instagram, as you mentioned earlier, too. Kind of like a waterfall strategy. We start with search, and then we kind of move on to other platforms.
Yeah, a big part of it is the shopping ads in the Google Merchant Center
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
uploading. You have to make sure you're on a e-commerce platform that provides a product feed that you can and a shipping and return feed. So that if you're lucky, you can actually get that beautiful little Google badge. The with the reviews and
Yeah.
product reviews and so forth. That could definitely improve conversion rates. But I've noticed I've noticed there's multiple ways that you can optimize your shopping feed. I know for larger catalogs, it becomes a little bit more difficult in how you configure your ad groups and negative keywords and so forth. I noticed for smaller product categories, you and I worked on an account in the past that did freezable lunch bags,
Oh yeah.
and we literally could create an ad group for every product because their product list was like less than 20. So we could really sort of hyper optimize
Sure.
our ad groups from our product feeds within the Google Ads platform. But I've noticed for larger catalogs that third-party services can make optimizing a little bit easier, such as Feedonomics.
Yeah.
I noticed Feedonomics did a pretty decent job with allowing you to take the default garbage that your CMS will spit out sometimes and rewrite it so that you have more compelling titles and product descriptions to give yourself a chance to compete in those product searches in Google Shopping.
Yeah, that's amazing. We haven't used a lot of third party tools as of yet, but definitely, you have a good point. When your e-commerce accounts are really huge, you definitely want to use some of the third party tools to create those ad groups. It's going to be pretty time consuming, not only to create them but to manage them. So you're going to need a little bit of help there.
And
Um,
how would you create? So we talked about Google a bit and Bing and
yeah,
Amazon. How do you create a Facebook PPC campaign? Because I click on those things all the time, and I'm like, I should be banned. I should not be allowed to look at
yeah,
Facebook or Instagram because I'm like following my family, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, cool, this could improve my memory, or this is
right,
gonna give me less stress at work, and I'm just clicking on everything like an idiot.
yeah.
Um, how do you create a Facebook PPC
I
campaign?
mean, you brought a really good point because people on Facebook like to click stuff, but they don't have it necessarily the intention of buying, right? Because they
Mhm.
go on Facebook to socialize. So you have to get your audience list like in order. For example, a good audience list is that the shopping cart abandoned the last 60 days, and maybe you want to retarget them with um, a new promotion,
So
10%
you
off.
can upload a list of anyone who's made a purchase through you as a customer list on Google and Facebook, right?
Exactly, you can do that on Google or Facebook as well, on Google as well. But on Facebook, you don't. It's a lot like email marketing. You want to have different lists. Last 90 days customers, last 30 days customers, the customers who only bought one time. You want to get them to buy again. So yeah, it's you have to segment those audience lists, and that's
Mhm.
really what it is, and that's how you can reduce those wasted clicks as opposed to the traditional, very basic retargeting of, hey, let's retarget whoever visited our website. That's where you start getting a lot of clicks, of unwanted clicks. But if
Right.
you were like, let's say if you were able to identify all your shopping cart abandoned uh,
Mhm.
users and upload that list for the last 30 days, and you would have a pretty good idea of why they abandoned. Maybe you can offer them free shipping, maybe you can offer them a 10%, 20% off. You're
Right.
more likely to see results in Facebook. So you have to have you have to have the strategy in Facebook in place. We do have a good Facebook team that that do really good job with that stuff.
Yeah, unless they're on the new iOS. Apparently, there's some
Yeah.
some issues now with the way that iOS is going to be trying to block and do a better job for privacy, which affects our ability as marketers to to hit some of those users again, or to put them into audience lists. So it's going to get really complicated. But I think that's a topic for another discussion, probably after it happens, to see
The
what that
cookie
difference looks like.
issues, the cookie issues is going to definitely create some sort of challenges. So that's where you have to kind of get away from the third party data and kind of start focusing on own
Yep.
data.
And well, for those on a budget, what are some ways? I know Dennis, you likes to talk about how he has this dollar a day Facebook idea, and I thought that was really interesting. But in your experience, if you're a small business, how do you get cheap PPC traffic?
Um, to be honest with you, I wouldn't go
You
after.
have that same breath of, it's hard because you know
No,
how expensive PPC can be.
I just don't like the word cheap. If you understand your KPIs well, like let's say like I mentioned earlier, if you know which product you're going to promote and you know your profit margin, you know your cost per, you know your basic KPIs, you know your cost per acquisition, you know your average order size, you know all that stuff, then
Hmm.
then if you can get that in a positive zone, then whatever money you're making can reinvest back in PPC. That should be if you just go after cheap, you get what you pay for, right? So if you just go after cheap PPC traffic, there's a reason. For example, if we have a client, and this is not e-commerce, who is still paying like $400 or $500 a click for a keyword, he's in a personal injury, space, because he knows that it has eventually will convert into a big case for him. So he's
Yep.
willing to spend $400 or $500. So it is as I recommend stay over from cheap and try to identify uh, the positive ROI and go after the big fish, and it's really hard. It's not, but branded obviously you want to protect your brand. So most of the times we recommend to bid on your own brand and kind of like start phasing it out as your SEO improves. Your main products that you have the best, you have a lot in stock, and you have a big profit margin on. Go after different variation of it, long tail. But at the end of the day, you want to go after the keywords that convert the most, and you really have to get to know your cost per acquisition for each keyword.
Sure. So
Is that
focus on the less competitive, longer tail keywords
Yeah, for
and
sure.
avoid some of those.
Less competitive and longer tail. So as long as they convert, it's a good place to start.
And yeah, let the bidding algorithms do their magic. You go in there, specify what you're willing to spend and how much you're willing to spend, and it might take a month or two for their little algorithms to
Sure.
kick in to get you, the return on ad spend that you want. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's a good approach, and a lot of patience too. I think like with SEO, it's just letting some of those bidding algorithms mature and collect data.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because you want things to work, and
Yeah.
I see so many businesses that will say, "Screw it, kick up the bids."
Right.
And like you said, they'll spend $1,000 for a sale on something and go, oh, forget it, this didn't work for me. But instead, if they just set it low, and just sit and wait and let it do its thing,
Yeah.
over time you see the return on ad spend for sure.
Yeah. And the other optimization, you want to constantly optimize so you can reduce costs. Like you improve your quality score, your costs reduce a little bit. You do some day parting, like just review what time of the day you're getting clicks and getting on conversions. Maybe you don't want
You
your
have a limited budget, run your ads at 10 o'clock at night till midnight.
Yeah. I mean, you have to understand that maybe your budget should be your ad should only be on during the time that you convert. Since
Right.
so just constant optimization and like you said, patience as well.
Hmm. What are some of your tips for how you increase PPC conversions when you're thinking about e-commerce?
Yeah, e-commerce. I I think really the one thing that we constantly see is that you have to have a separate ad groups for, you first of all you have to have. I don't know about single keyword SCAGs, single keyword ad groups, but I do, because it's a lot of work. But I
Yeah,
do
it's where every ad group has a phrase match, exact match,
exactly.
and broad modified, which now is gone, right? Now it's just
Yeah,
phrase match. So we
it's
have phrase match,
and broadband.
broad, and exact.
Yeah, it's back to what it used to be. Um, it's about what I recommend is that you want to create ad groups based on intent, by
Right.
theme and intent and theme. So like if and just an opt and have landing pages. Like for e-commerce, what we do is that we create, you know, uh, landing pages on the fly. Basically they look like category pages, but they're made for PPC. And with the products that we've grouped, so there's product grouping and keyword grouping for those products, and then we drive traffic to those pages. So the landing page is very important. The ad groups, people do read those ads, so you want to make sure that, just like, no, you don't just have the product name in there. You want to have some description about why, why you, as opposed to your competitors are only clicks away from you. So getting your ad groups organized, getting your landing pages organized, and then having a really awesome ad copy, take full advantage of the ad extensions, and then and and of the ad extensions do show some of the stuff like reviews and ratings and things like that. So make sure you fully utilize all that features before.
Because those can help your click-through rates, your ad relevancy scores. I remember back in the day when you looked at ad rank, the formula was, um, at the time it was based on your quality score, and it was based on your bid,
Yeah.
and then they added in ad format, and then ad rank completely, started to move into something completely different over the years. And now it's ad relevancy, it's likely or expected click-through rate. It's like all these different competitive quality score metrics that expanded on where you're going to rank in the paid search based on those individual things. Now it's great that they're finally giving us more of those. Back in the day, you're like, what's quality score determined by? Oh, we can't really talk about that. That's our secret sauce. And they start breaking it into those little chunks, which makes it a lot easier. One thing I have noticed on PPC conversions though is when you do testing with the call to action buttons. I know with Belkin, we made some suggestions on making their buy now or add to cart button much larger, and it was a subdued black at one point, and we gave them a suggestion to change the color a bit, and we did notice a lot better conversion rates just by playing around with that button and making it more prominent. We saw the same thing on bobswatches.com. By modifying the size and the prominence of the actual add to cart button, it drew your attention to that and sort of psychologically reminded your brain to click it, or made your brain want to click it. I thought that was really interesting. One really fun thing we did when on one site that was a buy and sell website, we needed to sell inventory quick because we just we're at that point we're like, hey, we've bought all this product, now we need to sell some. So we throttle on this neat little feature that instead of it being like a light box or a pop-up, it just literally is a CSS, and it in the middle of the page, it would drop down and it would say, hey, we've noticed you've been looking at this item for a few seconds. So, we really want you to have this. If you buy it in the next, 5 minutes, or if it was a more expensive product, so we give them like 20 minutes. If you buy this in the next 20 minutes, you can save, another 30% or 20%. So it invoked the need of urgency to purchase it. So when we did this, we sold with a timer, by the way, it was counting down. We sold 3 times as many product when we did that. And we got the user into our opt-in because now they were a shopper, and we could remarket to them and get them to buy something at regular price down the road. So the lifetime value of that client balanced out, a little bit of that's cost leader that we put out there to begin with. But those are a couple of things that I've noticed really work. Was there one thing in particular that stood out for you in sort of landing page conversion optimization at the product detail level?
I think chatbots. Like I think
Okay.
people do have questions, and if your product, you feel like your product needs some more explaining to do,
Yeah.
I think that could help. I mean, in some cases it could be distractions, but in some cases it can help. So you have to be able to identify that. And as I mentioned earlier, is that you really want to be able to uh, help the users having seeing the content they want. You worked really hard, you paid a lot of money for that click to come to your website, and
Yeah.
you don't want to disappoint them. So the user experience and the content of that page is really important. It's all about that's why SEO and SEM kind of go in hand. And if you have an SEO guy doing his thing and SEM gal doing her thing, and they're not talking to each other, and there could be a lot of missed opportunities there,
Yep.
especially in the world of
Where have you seen businesses go wrong with doing e-commerce SEO or PPC?
I mean, some of the things we just mentioned earlier, just like not for SEO, just not doing the products, not investing in the product content, unique product content, and that's just and those images as you mentioned.
Taking the lazy route, copying and pasting.
Exactly, and also not having it, not truly understanding their consumer journey. Like, uh, and trying to understand. I mean, so you have to be a good marketer and figure out like who you're going after. You just don't want to go after a keyword search volume. Like we said, you want to see which keywords are you should be going after for SEO and SEM, and who are these customers. How can you uh, the better you understand the psychology of the consumer, the better you can
Yeah.
optimize your campaigns on an ad copy level, on a landing page content level, and SEO content level, and you can form your strategy around your target audience. And you want to have in my opinion, more integrative approach to marketing.
Mhm.
10 years ago, 5 years ago, you know, the social media expert was doing his or her thing. The SEO person was doing different things, and you should at least be on the same page. Have In some cases, it may not make sense for you to bid on your branded terms because you're already ranking for it organically and you're just wasting your money. So maybe you can shift some of that money into non-branded terms. In
Yep.
some cases, you have to protect your brand because your competitors are bidding on yours. So yeah, you have to have that open. And if you just have this one size fit all approach,
That budget allocation thing where it's you start with the company name as a campaign, and then you have product name as a campaign. So you've got branded squared away. Then you get into product type, right? When someone's looking for a running shoe or walking
yeah,
shoe. Then you get into product benefit, right? Because that's kind of the next level down. We're not really looking to buy yet, but they're looking for something to help them with a problem.
sure.
And then lastly, if you have to do it at all, you can get into like competitor conquesting and going after some of the things that your competitors are getting traffic from. I think that's for sure. What's interesting is Amazon does make quite a bit of money from their affiliates. I've never really had much experience with that, and you've been doing e-commerce SEO for a while. Are you working with any sort of affiliate PPC campaigns, and how has that worked, or where have you seen success?
We don't do a lot of affiliate as of right now, but the only company we work with does print and demand for affiliates. So
Okay,
so so we've done the other way. So we are trying to target them, getting them to come and become an affiliate. So I won't have a lot of opinion about that right now, unfortunately. But
yeah.
that's something that I've been looking into for myself as a side side gig,
Everyone likes
side
affiliate
hustle.
money, right? It's like you
Yeah,
get a paycheck and you're like, "What did I do? Oh, I created a blog post and it had a
right.
a link to an Amazon article." A lot of those
Yeah,
those bloggers out there that get hundreds of thousands of visits a month, they monetize their sites by recommending Amazon affiliate links, and even YouTubers now find the links in my description, and it's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I get targeted by those guys all the time, I read blog posts, it's a sponsored blog post, and in my opinion, I still like to discover uh, the brand and search myself because it feels more authentic and as opposed to an influencer telling me. So, but yeah, definitely influencer marketing is a
Sure.
big thing for e-commerce, and that's something that is going to get bigger and bigger as time goes by. TikTok right now has made a lot of millionaires just by being
Mhm.
influencers and affiliates. So,
That's true.
so that's definitely an opportunity for many e-commerce shops.
Well,
That
Al, this
that's
has
where
been a lot of fun going through and geeking out a little bit with you on
yeah,
e-commerce search. I know we're getting near the top of the hour. Before we do, are you ready for a lightning round of questions?
sure. What is
I didn't give you any hints on these too, so you're totally winging it. You ready?
Yeah, sure.
All right, your favorite three SEO tools, go.
Screaming Frog, SEMrush, and Google Search Console.
Oh my God, we're like brothers from another mother, man. Who should we be following in the SEO industry today?
Definitely you, Steve Wiideman.
Oh, come on.
Um, not
I'm
Neil
an old timer.
Patel. Not Neil Patel.
Okay.
um, I'm bad with names. I have all of them on my Facebook,
Uh,
but who do you recommend?
Aleda right now and Lily Ray.
Lily
Steve
Ray for
Kaufman
sure.
doing great things.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Lily Ray for sure.
Cool. What are your favorite SEO groups in Facebook or LinkedIn? And I know you're in our Search Marketers Club, so that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Your group search marketing clubs. Uh, to be honest with you, I don't I don't know. Like I'm in a bunch of groups, and I just based on topics that I see popping out. Sometimes I
Sure.
participate, but
Hey, if it shows up in alerts, I'll jump in, right?
my
I'm like in all these
recommendation,
groups, and if something looks interesting, you dive in.
yeah, my recommendation is get in, and if they have hundreds of thousands of followers,
Yeah.
that means they're legit.
Yeah, and it means that there's a lot of noise too,
There's
so be
a lot of
careful
noise
with
for
those
sure.
big ones.
Yeah.
What's one SEO myth that you still see that drives you crazy?
One SEO myth.
Uh-huh. You're gonna say PPN.
I was just gonna go. Yeah, I was just. I still think like bounce rate. Bounce rate.
Okay,
Uh, bounce rate is our definition of bounce rate, and what Google understands of bounce rate is two different things. I
it's
mean,
true.
when people say, "Oh, reduce your bounce rate, your SEO will improve," no, because
No, our bounce rate tanked on this lawyer website that we just redid, and the conversion rate went up by over 54%.
yeah, and that's what it is. Bounce rate and SEO, it's not, the correlation isn't there. And in Google Analytics, you can get your bounce rate below 1% really easily. You just have to figure out where to put the code. So,
Tweak it.
right, so
Yep.
so I think that was one myth that I've always tried to argue against. Like,
Cool. Bounce rate. That's a good one. I like that. What's the fastest way to rank a new page on organic search results? Since we're talking about e-commerce,
yeah.
I'm going to give you a category page. How do we get this category page to rank in organic quick?
Um, do everything that you have to do on page. The title tag, meta descriptions, and headings and subheadings. Make sure that page has content worth reading.
My hack has been looking at the first page of the results for the keyword for that category, and making sure that you have everything and more that the top guys in the top 10 results have,
Yeah.
and then I would get all of the links that those pages have earned, so that way you have an overlap of inbound links
Oh, that
from the different pages that appear on page one. That's always been my little quick hack: is have everything and more, and then get all the links that all of those pages have earned, as opposed to just one or more.
better learn from master. Yeah, for sure.
What's your fastest way to rank a listing in Google Maps? And
Uh,
we didn't talk about Google Maps much, but what's one little trick that you've learned?
I mean, honestly, this kind of may not be 100% kosher, but make sure that your business, so if you're a car accident attorney, you want to have the word car accident attorney in Google Map, but Google doesn't like it. But if you have your name and then car accident attorney, you might be able to get away with it. But kind of falls into maybe the gray hat, because it actually has to be your name on a Google Maps. But
We've had a client change their name to add personal injury lawyers, and we noticed a difference.
yeah,
So they
you gotta,
added their name,
yeah,
personal injury lawyers, and they moved up from 3 to 2.
yeah, you got to put the keyword in the name in your names for sure.
But they legitimately changed their business name.
Yeah,
They didn't try to hack it or lie. They went in, and it's updated with the bar association and all those guys
yeah,
too.
for sure. Yeah.
Um, what is the most important landing page SEO focal point in your opinion?
Uh, you mentioned it earlier. Just having constantly reminding consumer.
One focal point though. Title, description,
Oh,
heading,
okay, got it.
speed. What's the one thing that you think is the most important landing page SEO focal point?
Not an easy question to answer, because I think they're all important.
If you
But
could only do one thing, what would it be?
if you, oh, that's hard. I think I would do title tags.
Okay.
I would change the title. I would make it. I would make it match what I wanted to, the product, what I want to do.
Because that's the first thing the user sees in the search results. That affects your
That's,
keyword relevancy and the
yeah,
user's search behavior.
that's like
Yep.
the biggest ad copy you see in the search results.
Yep. Well, we got to wrap up here, but I got a couple more. Let's see if we can burn through them. What is your number one best link building technique?
On link mention, if you're a more established business, chances are is that you have a lot of people talking about you and they have a link to
Mhm.
you. So just doing outreach to them either through email, social media, asking them for a link.
So unlinked mentions.
Yeah, that
Nice.
I mean that works really easily. If
Yeah, because they already like you.
they
Yeah.
already like you, yeah.
Um, EAT, expertise, authority, trust. Is it more important to have that on the landing page, like the quality raters guideline, or is EAT more of an off page signal?
Uh, I think definitely on pages you got to get you on.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's off page as well, but definitely on page as well.
Last one. Does offline marketing help with keyword rankings?
Yeah, for sure. I think everything, that's what I said. Everything kind of helps everything. So you want to be talking to your offline marketers and making sure you're all on the same page, promoting the same type of products and things. And because the journey is very complicated. You're online, you're offline, you're on your mobile, you're on your desktop, you're on your, Amazon. Echo. So yeah, everything kind of works together. So it's important to talk to everybody in your department, in your
Well,
marketing
Al,
department.
congratulations, man. You survived the lightning round.
Thank
Thanks for hanging out with me today and
you.
sharing with all of our listeners all these great e-commerce SEO tips. What are some ways that if someone wanted to learn more about e-commerce or talk to you about doing some PPC for e-commerce that they could reach you?
Just go on our website, sefati.net, and just click on contact us. I'm usually very easy and fast in replying, so you
I
can.
saw that on a bathroom mirror once. I was wondering what that was about. So you heard Al. It says safadi.net, and you have a Twitter too, right?
Yeah, it's Sefati and Company. Sefati Company. That's our Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn, so just go search for me, Al Sefati. I share almost daily. I share things daily. I look forward. I'm a big follower of yours on LinkedIn too. So looking forward to the next content that you release.
Yeah, we definitely got to do this again. Thanks, Al, for hanging out with us, and guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.
Sure.